Hello, folks. Welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the connection between Bigfoot and UFOs and other strangeness. So get ready for a good show, but while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show off some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. Okay? Here we go. Here is my Extreme 90s cover. It looks pretty good, huh? The artwork looks pretty good on it. It's a pretty good cover. Scumdogs, the name of my book, is a parody book. It parodies 80s and 90s cartoons, as well as cartoons from the aughts and teens and as of now. It just fun. I just love to make fun of cartoons and stuff like that because I really like to make fun of stuff. But the Scumdogs themselves, the title characters, well, in the future, there's such a thing known as the Scumdogs Sports. It's basically sporting events held with superhuman athletes. These athletes turn themselves into monsters. And they're called scum and dogs because they trade in their humanity to become monsters. They're scum for doing it and dogs for doing it. Get it? Scum dogs. They turn themselves into superhumanly powerful monsters. You get the idea. So they're not exactly the best kinds of guys around. They're arrogant athletes, only they have superpowers and they look like freaks of nature. And they did it all for fame and fortune. But what happens when they get banned from sports? Or rather, what happens if, they do it all for money and stuff, but what happens when they do get banned from sports? Well, they decide to take over the world. I mean, why not? Now you see on my cover here, you see my two main characters, Death Mug and Buick Starpoon. They're arch enemies. Death Mug is a parody of villains from 80s cartoons. He's the purple guy with the middle mask over there, while Buick Starpoon is the guy with the pink pompadour hair and the green uniform over there. Oh, by the way, if anyone who was in a similar uniform to Buick Starpoon, they're all part of his team in the Space Forces, and they help him battle the Scumdogs. Death Mug is a parody of, various villains. Is basically, if you take, like Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe and Serpentor from G.I. Joe, like Cobra Commander, he's got a metal mask. Like Serpentor, he's got gold on him, and he's purple like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he's an arrogant, overbearing guy who was once a pro athlete but got banned from sports. So he decided, he was also thrown out on the street. He was basically, peed on, treated like crap. No one gave him any stuff. They took all of his stuff away because he was poor now, and he only got that. Anything he got was only through, only through basically the fact he got it from being a sports athlete. Well, soon after he was thrown at the streets, spent all of his money on booze, and he continued to smell bad, and he just went nuts, and he decided to take over the world because he wasn't going to take crap anymore. While Buick Starpoon became his arch enemy mainly because, they're both, he's also arrogant and he's overbearing. So when he met Death Mug, both of them really hated each other's guts because they thought the other was trying to steal the other's thunder. Trying to scream loud out and get more people to notice them. Hey, look at me! Don't look at that guy. Well, the other guy was doing the same thing. You get the idea. So now they fight each other, and now they daily and stuff like that. And who will win? Who knows? Who cares? It's just funny. I do care. But who will win? Or whether I know who will win. All right. The other guys on this cover in the same uniform as Buick Starpoon are all part of his. The guy over here with the mohawk is Roadhog. He's an army guy. Well, I should say that also, besides Buick Starpoon is also a parody character. He's a parody character of Duke from G.I. Joe, but he also parodies other characters as well. Mostly space hero characters like Buzz Lightyear or Buck Rogers or James T. Kirk from Star Trek. You know the characters. But he also has a specialty because he's also a G.I. Joe. He's also a G.I. Joe parody like the rest of his soldiers. His specialty is that he's a captain and stuff. He captains his starship. While over here, the guy with the mohawk, Roadhog, his specialty is that he's an army guy. The bald guy with the gun over here, his name is Beach Pounder. See it? He's a bald guy with a gun. He's in a blue uniform. His name is Beach Pounder, as I said. His specialty is that he's a Marine. Well, this guy back here in the red uniform driving that vehicle, firing his weapons off at the Scumdogs. His specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. He drives around a tank or weaponized or heavy vehicles and stuff like that. You get the idea. He drives around he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. Now, this cover is one of 3 different variant covers you'll be able to back when my Indiegogo goes live. All right. All right. Oh, by the way, folks, please go hit that like button for me, as well as please go share this video out on social media. Here we have Girl Friday. She's another member of the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. They fight the scumdogs. She's Buick Starpoon's second in command, and she hates his guts. She was only put on the Wild Rangers to basically babysit the team, because the Wild Rangers battle the scumdogs daily, and they huge epic battles, but they also cause collateral damage, or rather they cause a lot of damage. And she was put on the team, on the Wild Rangers, basically to babysit them and basically direct them in the direction where they would do their jobs without basically destroying everything else in sight. And she hates her job because her superiors in the Space Forces put her as Buick Starpoon's put her as Buick Starpoon's second in command, and she hates it. She feels like her career in the military is over because she's now a babysitter. And get the idea. That's Girl Friday. Here we have Death Mug's henchmen, because in all 80s cartoons, any main villain in a cartoon, their henchmen would always be jerks or idiots, or they'd keep screwing up. Well, these are Death Mug's idiots. The blue guy the pink guy down here is Sloppy, and the blue guy up here is Murder Mouth. They're a couple of idiots that destroy everything they touch, and they're going to be fun as hell when you read my graphic novel. Over here we have Hair Metal Doctor. He's a mad scientist. He's a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist here is also crossed over with a hair metal musician. I thought it'd be awesome to have him as a villain who also rocked out as a hair metal musician. He's a mad scientist who thinks of all of the gadgets and machinery that the scumdogs use to try and take over the world. Come and read him in my graphic novel, Scumdogs. All right. Let's see what else. Here we have Miss Breasty Melons. She's a parody of the Baroness from G.I. Joe. But unlike the Baroness, she's a party girl. She became a villain just for fun, and she's hot as hell. Some people have said that, that she is incredibly hot. And you'll be able to learn more about her in my graphic novel. By the way, the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and this Miss Breasty Melons pinup will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel for you all to have. And I will also try to get these pinups out to you on t-shirts for you guys to buy from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make them, okay? Now we look at that. Let me go back over here. 8 minutes in. Now let's have some more fun. I said we're going to be looking at some stuff today. Let's go over to Indiegogo real quick to see if there are any new Indiegogos up. Just real quickly. Let's see here. Not bad. All right. Let's go. Let's go over this way. There's 94, which is now funding through demand. That's good. There's Nartaric. All right. There's Captain Napoli. All right. We have a few new Indiegogos up. And they don't look too bad. But I think I'm going to go over and basically, look at Bigfoot, the connection between Bigfoot and UFOs, like told you tonight. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at the connection. Yeah. I could look at those Indiegogos. Maybe I'll save them for later. But right now, let's go look at the connection between Bigfoot and UFOs. That's what I was going to do tonight because I'm always curious about learning about this stuff. So let's come along and read these articles and stuff, as well as leave a few chats if you guys have any ideas about what we could be about. If you've heard about Bigfoot and the connection with UFOs or anything anything else like that. Let me go over here first. Let's see. Let me go over here real quick. Let's see this. Let's go over here. Let's see. There. Let me do that. I'm going to make sure I was still streaming, and I did that. Okay. Let's see. The Bigfoot Files. Let's look at this article here. Most of us are familiar with the legends and stories of Bigfoot or Sasquatch. We have all heard tales of a mysterious hairy beast who stalks the mountains and woodlands of the planet. That is true. Do I really need to explain what Bigfoot is? Most countries and cultures have accounts and legends of such a creature. As I said, I could look up exactly what Bigfoot is. Most people agree that Bigfoot, well, if you believe he exists, is an ape creature. He also could be an alien or something similar to it, because whatever this connection he has with UFOs certainly is something strange, because a lot of people who have realized that in the same areas where people have seen Bigfoot, a lot of people also see UFOs for some odd reason. Another strange phenomenon, which is all very strange. So, what could be the connection, huh, folks? What does Bigfoot have to do with aliens? What do aliens have to do with Bigfoot? Could Bigfoot be the missing link, as some people have said, and that aliens are trying to find him for maybe to run experiments on him? Or is it possible that Bigfoot is maybe a time traveler and aliens went back in time, brought Bigfoot to the future, and left him off so people would be able to see him for some, I don't know why they would do that. Or maybe, perhaps, there is a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs. Perhaps aliens created us, created mankind. And but they also keep looking for Bigfoot because they created us from Bigfoots. Maybe they genetically engineered Bigfoot into humans, and that's why they're trying to find more of him. Maybe they need to get some of the original DNA of the Bigfoot to run more experiments for themselves for whatever reason these aliens are doing it. Could be. Or maybe there's a connection between UFO and Bigfoot and Bigfoot, because maybe they're all spirits. Maybe what we're seeing when we think we see UFOs are ghosts. Same thing with Bigfoot. It's just some weird spirits. Could be as well. Let's see. Reports of sightings generally speak of a creature anywhere from 7 to 10 feet tall, weighing around 300 pounds. Their hairy appearance makes them comparable to a gorilla, although their stance is much more upright. An extremely unpleasant aroma also accompanies their presence. Sightings suggest that they have flat stomachs, and some reports even state state very distinct breasts in some of the creatures. Again, there are all traits more in line with human beings as opposed to a gorilla. The name The name Bigfoot comes from a picture that ran in a California newspaper in 1958. Local resident Gerald Crew had taken a cast of a huge footprint that he claimed belonged to a Sasquatch. He had made the discovery while walking Bluff Creek in the northern part of the state. However, sightings came from all over the world, and these mysterious creatures are known under various names, which we will examine later. Although claims of these creatures go back for thousands of years, there appears to be an increase in sightings. Even mainstream scientists state that it is unlikely as it is. It would not be impossible that an unknown species of hominid could go undetected for thousands of years. As our societies grow and ever encroaching into areas that might house such species, so do the reported sightings. Suckroom legend in the 1924 Fred Breck incident. There are signs of Bigfoot-like creatures all over the world. One area that is particularly awash with such reports is the state of Washington, the upper northwest of America. It's more of these stories go back hundreds of years. 1847, while visiting Mount St. Helens, artist Paul King received warnings he should stay clear of the area by local tribes. According to them, it was inhabited by a race of being of a different species who were also cannibals. They referred to these creatures as Succoons and indicated their presence was a supernatural experience as much as anything else. In 1924, while staying in Ab Country, Fred Beck and his team were subject to rocks thrown at their cabin. After managing to sit Sit out the incident, they would find huge footprints in the mud around the grounds the following morning. Most thought it was likely a prank from a rival mining team, but Beck wasn't so sure. He investigated the stories and accounts of the area over the following years, eventually writing of his theories that multiple stories told of large hairy creatures appearing out of nowhere, even throwing rocks from high above. He ultimately believed that the creatures that attacked the cabin that evening were from another dimension. It was this particular sighting. Yeah, there are also reports that Bigfoot might be from some other universe. Some people say UFOs are from another universe, maybe interdimensional travelers. It would still make them, well, from another universe, and some like that, stuff like that. It was this particular sighting and reports thereafter that would lead to the most famous piece of Bigfoot footage. This short video below, Docorama from the 1970s, looks at the claims of Fred Beck in a little more detail. I suppose I could look at that. In 1967, two filmmakers were Bigfoot caught in the Patterson footage stabilized. Now, two filmmakers embarked on retracing the steps of Beck's team as they investigated the legend of Bigfoot. It certainly is up for debate as to the authenticity of the footage filmed by Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin. However, just as important is the fact that it hasn't been debunked in any conclusive way. What they captured is arguably the most famous piece of footage of a Bigfoot creature in history. And notice the big breasts on it. I suppose they basically said they were in a suit and stuff like that, but that looks like a very odd suit. And why, back in 1967, would you put female breasts on an ape suit? While in Northern California, the two filmmakers filmed the Bigfoot creature walking away from them, even turning to observe two men before calmly walking into the woodlands out of sight. You can check out the infamous frame 352 below. What should we look at, folks? Maybe? I mean, could the Bigfoot be an alien life form or not? We're basically covering some of the same stuff we've seen before, but they have mentioned that Bigfoot might be from another dimension, just as the same thing with UFOs. Now, UFOs could be from another dimension. It would still make them aliens, maybe not from another planet in our own universe, from a million miles away, but maybe from another dimension. That's still aliens, It doesn't really matter, or maybe who knows if they are from another dimension, but it still makes them aliens. Let me go back here, folks. By the way, if you could, please go over and check out my Indiegogo campaign on Indiegogo. Just go to Indiegogo, search out Scumdogs. It'll take you to my pre-launch page. Sign up for it. The first 100 backers get a free poster of Buick Starpoon. Right. Let's see. Anyone hit that like button? Yeah, we have 2 people hitting that like button. That's pretty good. Now, I should really, as I said, look at more stories about Bigfoot. Let's go down here and stuff. I can look at the Legends of the Yeti, the Bigfoots of Siberia in the Far East. A presence that likely goes back centuries. I'm mostly here to look at the other Bigfoot-like creatures over the planet, looking for the connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. All right. UFO signs and other strange phenomena connections. We covered what Bigfoot is, mostly like that. Most people know who Bigfoot is, but we did cover the part where it did say another dimension. Bizarre as it may seem, areas where Bigfoot sightings are high are usually also UFO hotspots. Not only that, these areas are often prone to other strange phenomena. This has led to some questions whether there is a direct connection to the creatures and such strange events. We know, for example, there are numerous UFO encounters with direct references to Bigfoot-like creatures. Just what might that connection? Yeah, what is that connection? Are these creatures actually extraterrestrial in nature, or might they simply use the same method as entry from their world onto ours? A lot of allegedly hotspot areas of Bigfoot sightings are also regions where tectonic plates meet. Some theories suggest that the energy released when this happens is so great it opens a portal to another dimension. Remember, Beck's claims that the creatures known as Sasquatch are from another dimension, an area known as the Bennington Triangle on the northwest of the states. Well, the big Bernardin Triangle on the northeast of the United States also has legends of beast-like creatures. Some legends of the local tribes of the area also speak of a portal being present here. Might this be another example of interdimensional creatures? In Scotland, on Beer Mateo, the highest peak of the Carmen's mountain range, famous for mysterious signs and strange phenomenon, also has reports of tall, hairy creatures lurking within the valleys, referring to as the big gray men. There are many reports where people feel someone is watching them. Some even claim to have heard large footprints in the snow behind them as they descend the mountain. Why do Bigfoot's creatures vanish into thin air? If they're from another dimension or ghosts, well, or spirits, they can disappear at will. If they're from another dimension, maybe they just return back to their own dimension. The idea of portals or gateways sharing a connection to Bigfoot encounters is an interesting one, and that would make a certain amount of sense, as bizarre as it might sound, when we consider some of the claims of these beast-like creatures simply vanishing into thin air. For example, respected UFO researcher Linda Moulton Howe would recall an account, or maybe should, for example, respected UFO researcher Linda Moulton, or of a rancher who found himself staring straight into the face of a Bigfoot creature. He instinctively raised his weapon to fire at it, only several feet away, and in a flash it simply disappeared. Indeed, for all of the solid sightings and video footage, no one has ever captured one of these creatures, whatever the moral argument might be in doing so. In fact, it would appear that nobody has even come close to this. And when we bear in mind that many witnesses stress how the creature was there one minute and gone the next, we should perhaps look at the idea that these apparently wild beasts are in fact visitors from another dimension or even time. Admittedly, it isn't an idea that really springs to mind when discussing Bigfoot sightings. However, increasingly numbers of researchers are recognizing such a connection regardless of how outlandish it might seem. Indeed, that idea that these creatures are little more than strong beasts, at least according to those who have had close contact experience with them, would seem to be quite far removed from the truth. Many such witnesses, even though they cannot explain why state of an immediate sensation of overpowering intelligence from these towering beings. Purposeful manipulation of the elements or an unknown natural phenomenon. Here's some more ideas. Before I move on to other Bigfoot and alien stories. So the question we ask then, are these potential portals the result of purposeful engineering, perhaps the use of advanced technology or an understanding of how to manipulate energy and the elements with cells in order to step from one realm to another? Or might they be an intended result of natural phenomenon, such as tectonic plate activity for the sake of argument? The result is a brief sharing of a plateau between our world and theirs. There is an increasing research, even in the mainstream, into the possible existence of black holes on Earth, portals and wormholes, as well as the existence of energy in empty space. Any one of these largely unknown phenomena could result in opening gateways to another dimension. As we have also mentioned before, many scientists now seriously contemplate the multiverse theory, the idea that multiple universes, worlds, or dimensions all existing at once, with everything, the past, the present, and the future, all taking place at the same time. All the time is no longer just as to the mad ravings of the lunatic fringe. These concepts are only in theory, or in the minds of serious thinking researchers and scientists. As we have seen, the sightings of these strange creatures, whether Bigfoot, Yeti, or whatever local monikers used, tend to concentrate in certain areas, and one of the most intriguing of these, certainly in the United States, is one that is overlooked when looking at Bigfoot cases. Perhaps that is because it took place during one of the most active UFO waves of the 20th century, the Pennsylvania UFO Bigfoot waves. Pardon me, folks. When we examine the connection between black box sightings and Bigfoot creatures, we examine briefly the recent increase in sightings of both in the state of Pennsylvania throughout the 2000s. What is perhaps an interest is the same region had a similar wave in the 1970s at the height of the initial wave of cattle mutilations, no less. And while they quieted somewhat, they have also continued since. Some of the more recent sightings of the region are as chilling as they are interesting. For example, John Reed from the town of Likens reported of October 2012 how his motorhome was attacked by a Bigfoot creature while he was inside. No less, that creature also smashed windows in his car. He would state of the incident. It wasn't a person. I didn't see any clothes or coat or anything, and I didn't think it was a bear. It didn't move like a bear. Such reports are regala and consistent in the state. In fact, some researchers have uncovered reports of Bigfoot sightings going back to the mid-1800s. One particular report from December 1858, a thing like man but hairy as a bear. It has a scene by the people of Pennsylvania. It was very wild and strong. It was once seen in a pen sucking the cows, and when discovered, it started as if about to fight, and then turned and fled, bounding like a deer. It walks upright and is supposed to be a wild man. Perhaps what is most interesting about these, before Bigfoot actually became really popular, they used to call these sightings, tales of wild men. And while there have always been wild men who basically decide to give up life in modern civilization and go back and live in a cave or in a tent on a mountain and stuff like that, usually when you think of a wild man, you think of that. But these tales also correlate to stories of Bigfoot. And basically, it was real easy for these stories to get blended together, because when you talk about wild man, you ultimately just have a mountain man or a guy living in the woods, not actually an ape creature or anything or like that. Perhaps what is most interesting about these words is the connection between this strange beast and a Texan kettle. Are these cattle mutilations or something similar for people as such? The Fayette County incident, perhaps one of the most interesting and intriguing of these UFO Bigfoot crossover sightings, occurred during the UFO wave of 1973. A surge of sightings particularly memorable for the sheer number of witnesses that would report seeing humanoid occupants. Although this wave of strange sightings stretched the entire year, the bulk of the activity from around late September onwards. Many of these sightings were concentrated in certain states. One such was Pennsylvania. However, unlike some of the other sightings, those in the Keystone State also seem to include Bigfoot-like creatures. On this particular evening in Fayette County on the 25th October, a little after 9 p.m., multiple witnesses were reported seeing a large red spherical object hovering at low altitudes before coming down to land in a field nearby. When witnesses approached the field, white dome-shaped object making a whirring sound and then illuminating the ground around where it sat. Even more bizarre, however, were the two tall creatures between 7 and 9 feet tall, walking from the craft. Each had saggy hair, and each had particularly oversized arms right to below the knees. Strangest of all, there were their glowing green eyes. At this point, some of the witnesses fired their weapons at the creatures rather than fall injured or even dead. They simply turned around, and in a flash, the domed craft was gone, and the creatures were almost out of sight into the woods. A sudden trance-like animalistic state. While local UFO investigators arrived at the area later that evening, they noticed how the animals that would normally graze in the roam in the pasture wouldn't go anywhere near it. They would remain there for most of the night and into the early hours of the following morning. They would notice how several of the animals would pay no attention to their presence and instead stare intently into the woods, where two strange creatures vanished. Investigators also witnessed several strange flashes of light coming from a farmhouse near to their location. Then something truly bizarre took place, something that once again blends an aspect of the supernatural to the Bigfoot question. While speaking, one of the main witnesses, he would suddenly go into a trance, begin to growl like a dog. He then pushed several of the investigators to the ground and ran into the field, animalistic sounds coming from him as he did so. Then he let out an inhuman scream before collapsing to the ground, now seemingly free of the control of whatever force had taken over him. At the same time, and again in line with other Bigfoot sightings, was an intense odor akin to rotting eggs. He would quickly come back to his senses. He would state that during the episode, only seconds long, his mind filled with chilling visions that he can only describe as like the end of the world. This is particularly interesting. Yeah. And if you didn't notice it, they said rotten eggs, which smells like sulfur, as I know it. Sulfur is basically one of the things you'll smell during something like a demonic attack or incident where someone swears they've been possessed by the devil or something similar. Rotten eggs. Ooh. This is a notion, especially when we consider some of the Native American legends state that these Bigfoot-like creatures have more in sympathy with the spirit world than anything else. They're said like that. Now I think I'll go maybe look at, are there any more stories of aliens, ancient alien connections? Here we go. According to some ancient astronaut researchers, there is a real possibility that Bigfoot creatures are indigenous species of Earth. Some believe that the human beings are the result of their Bigfoot DNA mixed with alien DNA. In particular, the Anunnaki. This would, in theory, make these Bigfoot creatures the supported indigenous species through hybridization of theirs and alien genes, humans, versus the ancient Sanskrit texts, as translated by Stitchin, appear to refer to this when it tells of Enki selecting the plant's most developed primate, with which to combine Anunnaki DNA with. And of these early attempts, one particular verse states states shaggy with hair all over the newborn, his footprints like of the earth creatures were, his hind parts to those of the Anunnaki more akin they were. Perhaps more telling was the following verse, which refers to a period of time after allowing the creation to grow as it did. Enki realized that the species was not suitable for their needs and concluding he must start again. Taller, the earth child grew in the image of the Anunnaki. He was not. His hands for tools were not suited. His speech, only grunting sounds, was. If you describe to the ancient astronaut theory, then if this is the first attempt at geoengineering the human race, Bigfoot have gone on to develop by themselves in isolated areas, as we mentioned earlier. Even mainstream science suggests it's certainly possible, if unlikely, and there are examples of human tribes that only come to the modern world's attention recently. In fact, if we stay with this transition to the Sanskrit tablets, we will discover a most intriguing account that would appear undoubtedly to describe a creature we in the modern world Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot. Enkidu, the wild man, years ago. If we look at this epic Gilgamesh, essentially, Bigfoot, huh? Essentially, the oldest text in the world, dating from 2700 BC, it tells of the story of Enkidu, a close friend and wild man who resided outside of society. If we look at one part of the text, it describes Enkidu as the following. An animal. Enkidu's body had hitherto been covered with hair, which is now shaved off. He is anointed with oil and clothed like a man. These descriptions, particularly when we consider the above accounts of creating humans and creations before the ultimate suggest, certainly sound similar to modern-day descriptions of a Bigfoot creature. On a side note, if we accept the accounts of to be accurate, it is possible that Enkidu would have descendants, one who chose not to live in civilized society or wear clothes, ones who went back to the environment, the woodlands and mountain regions away from the society. While many mainstream historians dismiss these writings as fictional literature, we on the outskirts have to question this assertion. For example, Gilgamesh himself was very real, with numerous recordings of his achievements and buildings. Furthermore, at a time when writing was a long arduous and a mistake occurred. Say Gilgamesh was real? Maybe. But then again, they also say a lot of things about Gilgamesh as well, like him being a godman or demigod or something, or maybe not. But so you get the idea. I'm not quite sure about Gilgamesh being real, folks, but he might have existed as a real man, but certainly some of the stuff is outlandish, or rather some things they say about him. Well, if he did exist, he was no normal man. If mistakes occurred, expensive task would ancient people really have taken to the vast amount of time required just for a story? We have to push back against these dismissive assertions, not on the insistence that they are without doubt historical fact, but against the absolute insistence that they are not. That they could have some relevance to what has happened. That they aren't just that they are without history. Not in the insistence that they are not without historical effect. Yeah, there's good, but against the absolute sense that they are not. Yeah, there's a good chance that they do have a significance to history, these stories and stuff like that. That's something similar, or okay, maybe these stories are outlandish, but they have a grain of truth in them, which we must basically pay attention to. If not, for we will lose that knowledge, or have the chance. Or we will, if we do pay attention to it, we'll have a chance to learn something new about this world and who we are. Missing 3-year-old boy, case 2 days with a bear or 2 days with a Bigfoot. Much like a UFO case, I've talked about this before, where this boy was basically abducted out in the national park by something, but was found later on, and says he was with a nice bear, which the bear the bear sounds more like a Bigfoot from the story and stuff. So let's read this. Back in our contemporary of 2019, a story in the news intrigued many researchers to the Bigfoot phenomenon when a 3-year-old Casey Hathaway from North Carolina was discovered safe and well after 2 nights in the freezing cold forest of the region. He claimed that a bear helped him survive and get back home. While there is no known account of bears helping lost children or indeed adults, the fact that they would be in hibernation at the time of the incident would pretty much discount such a notion. Many experts suggested that boy had created the story as a coping mechanism, or that he had just had a fantasy. Many of the Bigfoot community could see the obvious staring straight at them. To them, there was no doubt that the bear was in fact a Bigfoot creature. Many would take to social media for examples of such incidents in the past. One commenter would state, Let me go back over here, folks. Let's see this. Ooh, yeah. If you have not yet, folks, please hit that like button, as well as please go and share this video on social media, will you? And please, please share this video and stuff. Now let's get back to what we were doing. Yeah. Let's see. There are no reports available of bears coming out of hibernation to tend to lost children. However, also on record are many reports of Bigfoot helping lost children. So did Casey Hathaway spend 2 days with a bear, or did he spend 2 days with a Bigfoot? Some may doubt such a thing. However, in light of what we know about bears in winter and Bigfoot's documented interaction with other children, I am going with Bigfoot. Another commentator completely, as a matter of fact, would offer that his wife claimed he probably got lost and was found by Sasquatch. It is an interesting notion. Not only would it suggest intelligence, but also suggest empathy and compassion. Are Bigfoot sightings increasing? Let's do this. The fact that there are multiple signs of reports of Bigfoot creatures each year, and 2020 has been no different. On the afternoon 20th January, for example, 2 Ohio men would encounter and report a Bigfoot creature. Yeah, look at this photo here. What would encounter and report as they walk through Folk State Park. One of them, only known as Eric, would report how the creature they witnessed walked upright, but was very much an ape-like creature. The other witness would claim that while seeing the Bigfoot creature was scary, it was more terrifying when he could no longer see it. What's more, there are apparent hotspots within this particular park alone where Bigfoot sightings are relatively rampant. Morgan's Gnaw might be one of the better known as a television show. Examined the Bigfoot's legends was filming in the region. The remaining 2 hotspots located in St. Fork State Park are Parker Road, sometimes called Black Eye Trail, and Bigfoot Ridge. While these areas of the state park certainly appear to have more sightings, many local legends also account people claim that the creature called the Woodlands home and have done for hundreds of years, going back to at least to the 1700s. However, the state park of Ohio is far from the only place where the Bigfoot sightings are taking place. Today, we did 2 decades into the 21st century. 2 decades into the new century. Yeah. Let me go down. Let's see. Researchers collect over 60 sightings throughout Idaho. It isn't like in Idaho where Bigfoot sightings are increasing. One researcher in Idaho, Becky Cook, has spent 2 decades collecting and publishing Bigfoot accounts around the state. I fear there's excessive state of 60 and spread over several books. One account tells of a witness known as someone who, along with several others, walking along a quiet road in the woodland when a Bigfoot came crushing out of the trees before it jumped down off a ledge to a stand right in front of them. The witness would state that it was their belief that they had scared him as much as he scared us. The witnesses would continue that the creature was around 8 to 9 feet tall, with hair all over his body and with yellow eyes. Perhaps indirectly, she would recall how the moves of the creature was like a dog or a bear's nose. Much like a UFO circles, Cook would soon discover that most people witnesses these strange creatures that then we might think. However, fear of ridicule, of being labeled crazy, often prevents them from reporting them. The more Cook spoke to these reluctant witnesses about the promise and delivery of the account, only in their words, many were suddenly eager to come forward with their accounts, and even some wished for their names to be changed. We might wonder if these states that around the units have a similar rate of sightings and whether many of them go unreported. We'd also perhaps also wonder, as we move on to next, whether there might be more of the Bigfoot creatures than a wild beast who lives in the woods. In fact, it might be that these strange beasts are not from our world at all. Another connection to the world of the supernatural. We can come back to this later. I want to look for more stories with Bigfoot and aliens. More of the mysterious Bigfoot UFO connection. Let's see. I'll go over this one. My previous article here at Mysterious University on the subject of monster hunting was titled Bigfoot, Why Can't We Find the Proof? It was focused on certain very strange aspects of the United States' most famous monsters, such as the fact that Bigfoot seems to be impervious to bullets, the creatures vanish before people's eyes, and that we have never ever been able to acquire Bigfoot's DNA. There is another issue connected to all of this. Arguably, it's the most controversial aspect of all, namely the links between Bigfoot and UFOs. Indeed, I have seen many Bigfoot researchers fume and rant when the matter of UFOs are brought up into the domain of Bigfoot research. Too bad is the fact there are more than a few reports of strange lights seen sky in the same location, and at the same time that the Bigfoot creatures have been seen, like it or not. When it comes to the UFO angle of Bigfoot, there is a mystery to be resolved. Unfortunately, it's a mystery that is often ignored deliberately too. I choose not to ignore it. One of the most interesting cases came from a man named James C. White in Memphis, Tennessee, who shared with paranormal expert Brad Stigger a copy of his Wyatt's grandfather's journal from 1888. It described the old man exposure to the Bigfoot phenomenon way back in the 19th century. The location was a humble northwestern when it was while in the area on one particular day. The day that Wyatt's grandfather encountered a tribesman carrying a plate of raw meat. Puzzled, he asked what it was for. After pondering on things for a while, the man mentioned Wyatt Sr. to follow him. On arriving at a cave built into a cliff face, he was shocked to see a huge hair-covered man-like beast. It was, however, quite docile and enthusiastically ate the meat provided for him. It was then that Wyatt's grandfather got the full story. The beast, named Crazy Bear, had supposedly been brought to the forest from the stars. Nothing less than a small moon had descended, ejecting both the creature and several others of its kind. The moon was reportedly piloted by very human-looking entities that always waved at the Indians. They dumped the hairy beasts on their land. Now let's take a look at the British Bigfoot, or specifically one such creature that has been seen in the UK. It is described as looking like a large chimpanzee and called a shag monkey. A shag is an Old English word for demon, notably the shug monkey. It was notably seen in Rendsmul and Rendlesham, Suffolk, that area. Well, Rensham. That area first just happens to be the site of what is claimed to be UK's most famous UFO encounter, an event that occurred back in December 1980, moving on Cashel Ring, Sheffield, England, from where a number of significant Bigfoot types reports have surfaced. Also, one also has long-standing links to UFO activity. It's an ancient hill fort dating back thousands of years. Graham Island on the Stratford Sheffield UFO group said in 2000. So Castle Ring is the highest point of the Canuck Chase, which makes it a good place for UFO spottings. There have been numerous instances of UFOs, which could be because you are most likely to see something from High Point. Allen elaborated that with respect to the unearthly encounters at Castle Ring, there have been reports of something landing there is the 1960s from a research point of view. There's also a high number of reports from ancient sites. One argument could be that ancient sites have been located there because of the incidence of UFOs and natural phenomena. There could be locations where there could be magnetic influences in the ground, which have been attributed to Earth lights. How curious that both UFOs and Bigfoot-type animals should be seen at Cashel Ring. Very interesting, huh? Here we have more evidence of Bigfoot, a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs from all over the world. What with people encountering these creatures and them basically mentioning UFOs, dropping these creatures off for whatever reason. Maybe these were defective. Well, you hear me? Maybe these were defectives, these Bigfoots, and then aliens have been getting rid of them because maybe they've been using Bigfoot as a slave, or they're a more highly intelligent version of Bigfoot, and these are just rejects. And they drop them here because these creatures can live better here than basically living back in their own world, which would basically, they can't really fend for themselves in such a place. What I mean is maybe they wanted them as slaves and servants, but they're too stupid to do anything, so they release these creatures here. While most Bigfoot seekers dismiss or outright ignore the UFO angle, some don't. Thankfully, one of them is Stan Gordon. One of them of Sandland Invasion, the Pennsylvania UFO Bigfoot Casebook. Stan's book is a swirling cauldron filled with dark and ominous words, glowing red eyes, beast men prowling the countryside by night, strange lights in the sky, UFO landings, neighborhoods gripped by fear, and fear of much more. Fear too, and it's thanks to Stan's research as well as his in-depth files prepared back when all of the dark drama was at its very height that we're now able to appreciate the curious chaos and calamity that collectively hit the unsuspecting people of Pennsylvania all those years ago. The fact there is a link between anomalous lights and hair-covered creatures is unfortunate. I think it's good that this admittedly bizarre angle, the Bigfoot phenomenon, is avoided by so many in the field. You shouldn't avoid this. It might very well be true. Okay, we'll look at that. That was interesting. Have you guys? Ooh, Bob Rogers, you're awesome. Thank you, Bob Rogers. Timothy Olson, what's up? Talking about the connection between Timothy Olson. Well, I guess we're on my new Hangout stream. Well, there it is. I've been talking about aliens and the connection with Bigfoot. Right, we're here with you guys. Timothy Olson, here is an update on my project Melvin 1/2 and Melvin 2 are being worked on as we speak. That's good, Timothy Olson. Dillard Draws, what up, Tim? Having fun, Dillard Draws. Nice to drop in. Yo, Dillard. Timothy Olson, you still causing trouble? Dillard Draws, what? Timothy Olson, we all know Bigfoot is just a damned hippie. Well, he could be he's hairy, that's for sure. And what's his connection with UFOs then? Is he just tripping? Or maybe he's met friends with aliens and stuff like that in outer space. Or maybe they took a hippie, took him to outer space, got him high, got him so hairy, and then returned him here. He could be a super, and they not only that, they got him so high, he's still tripping. We all know that Timothy goes low. If by causing trouble you mean hungry for chili, cheese, fries, then yes, indeed, probably to that as well. Chili, cheese, fries sounds good about now. Oh, he is tripping. Timothy Olson, it's nice to see you here as well. Driller Draws. Keep leaving chats and I'll check you guys in. Let's get back to looking at some more of this stuff and talking about Bigfoot. Let's see. Where was I? Up here. Let's see. Another connection of the world of the supernatural. One of the most intriguing aspects of Cook's research into Bigfoot sightings is an apparent connection with people who have had near-death experiences. According to Cook's data, around 70% of witnesses have had at least one near-death experience. It is her increasing belief that this could be a major factor in people being able to see creatures to begin with. We should recall that many researchers, as well as many of the native tribes of North America, claim there's a much more supernatural element to the Bigfoot creature. Indeed, there certainly appears to be a much more complexity to the Bigfoot creatures than most of us at first suspected. So Bigfoot's a ghost, or that people who basically come back from near-death experiences can see Bigfoot easier. Could be some awakened psychic power. Could these guys be spirits, or maybe they're somehow make people ignore them? What I mean is maybe they have these Bigfoot creatures psychic powers, and that's why people ignore them and stuff. But when someone actually sees them, these Bigfoot have no ability to influence the person who's seeing them, because maybe they've awakened to some psychic ability that allows them to see the Bigfoot. Could it be? Could be. Could be or could be. She also mentions that many witnesses speak of these strange creatures actually arriving on Earth through strange portals as opposed to living in the wilderness. This would, she claims, explains why many people only see these entities for a very short period of time. Taking this further, what might that tell us of the reason UFOs are often witnessed in abundance in the same locations as Bigfoot hotspots? Might there be a more supernatural aspect to the mystery of UFOs? And might, like the Bigfoot creatures, arrive here on Earth through the same or similar portals? And if so, what is causing these portals to open? That is another question. So let's go over to here. UFOs, Bigfoot evidence of interdimensional connection. Let's take a look at this story now. I'll get back to this. John Keel, the prominent UFOologist and paranormal researcher famous for the Mothman prophecies, once proposed the idea that there are window areas throughout the world connecting our reality with parallel dimensions. These areas, Keel imagined, may help elucidate some unexplained reports of entities that are too fleeting or confusing. Window areas, yeah, but do you think they're just windows? I think they're more like doorways, because I think these entities can actually come through. Like that, to a later detail or prove. With the increasing plausibility of the multiverse theory and infinite neighboring universe, we should be asking ourselves, are UFOs and Bigfoot's interdimensional travels, and could there be a connection between these two? For hundreds of years, people worldwide have reported encounters with monsters, fairies, demons, and cryptids. To this day, these experiences persist, while many of these same entities have also been encountered through the use of psychedelics. Now, it would be easy to say these are simply archetypical figures, being our collective consciousness conjuring our minds with anthropomorphic features based on fears or subliminal functions of our psyche. Or we could entertain the ostensibly bizarre possibility that these entities from another dimension operating on a higher realm of existence. Keel referred to these entities as ultra-terrestrials, beings capable of crossing dimensions at will, often acting as cosmic pranksters. Daniel Pinchbeck says he experienced prankster entities from a psychedelic realm across into the real world after encountering them during the end of the subsequent weeks following a psychedelic trip. Yeah, it is interesting. When it comes to Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti, or whatever you want to call them, there is often a playfulness nor spookiness described in their actions. The same thing goes for Dogman and other creatures as well. For God's sakes, as I mentioned in the last video, remember the Frogman? What's his name? Something Frogman. Back over here. This one, yeah. Let me see. The something Frogman. I think there's a Dover Demon, the Saligaster, Flatwoods Monster, Cryptid Time Robert. The Loveland Frogman, yeah. Because there are reports of the Loveland Frogman using a stick and basically like a magic wand shooting sparks out of it. Could he be from an ultra-terrestrial and using magical powers? From what we're reading here, it makes more of evidence that these creatures do exist, that these, UFO fairies and UFOs exist, Bigfoot exists, that there are some supernatural entities with powers beyond with powers that we can't explain. They're just more than just mere animals. I would say so if they wield such weird powers like magic wands. Let's see. Might there be more supernatural? It might like Bigfoot creatures arrive here on Earth through the same similar. I was back here and stuff like that. Can't refer to these entities like that. When it comes to Bigfoot, their appearance comes to whatever the Yeti or whatever Bigfoot you want to call them. There is often a playfulness in their tree knocking or eerie screams alert us to their presence until we get close enough where they might offer a glimpse of before vanishing, similar to thin air. Their appearance could be considered another form of prank, embodying a primitive ape-like creature that exudes a noxious odor, yet they're able to evade contact with us despite thousands of reported sightings over hundreds of years. Is Sasquatch cosmically trolling us? An interesting account tying UFOs and Bigfoot together comes from the 1888 meeting between Cala Ranchers, a group of Native Americans in Northern California. The natives described three crazy bears that descended from the sky in a small moon, leaving them in the woods before taking off. In another incident, Cincinnati, a woman named Ralphie Hetford and her daughter were awakened in the middle of the night to a beam of light extending down from a bulbous umbrella shape in the sky. Tracking the light to where it landed to the nearby woods, the two noticed a grayish simian creature wandering toward the beam. Before they knew it, both the ape and the craft disappeared. Though these stories may be apocryphal in nature, it's reported that at least 20% of Bigfoot sightings coincide with UFO reports. Jack Ray, a cryptozoologist, also shared a Bigfoot for decades, says he believes it's alternately plausible that Bigfoot is being abducted by UFOs in much the same way humans are to study DNA and its physical attributes. Gray also describes the idea of that something called the Marsh Effect would explain the possibility of interdimensional travel. The Marsh Effect, which is actually a sound principle in physics being tested, and employs the use of fluctuations created by body or of mass as accelerates that are in turn used to generate thrust. Gary says he believes that Earth's fluctuations can create momentary tears in the electromagnetic membrane, separating our universe with a parallel one, allowing extra-dimensional entities access to this dimension. This illustrious Valerie is also the mindset that there may be something extra-dimensional going on, sharing a similar sentiment to Keel when speaking about the UFO phenomenon. Valley believes there is something more than the traditional explanation of an extraterrestrial race visiting Earth, instead believing it to be a possible window to another dimension. We are dealing with a yet unrecognized level of consciousness, independent of man, closely linked to Earth. Not believe anymore that UFOs are simply the spacecraft of some race of extraterrestrial visitors. This notion is too simplistic to explain their appearance, the frequency of their manifestations through recorded history, and the structure of the information exchanged with them during contact. The CIA's Bigfoot evidence. The CIA's UFO, yeah. Ooh, that is interesting. Now, folks, let me go back over here to see if we have any new chats. Let's see. He was clearly as a demon form. Clearly, Bigfoot is a demon form. Maybe he was mutated from hippie pubes and now hunts the. Yeah, that's good, Timothy Olsen. That's good. Timothy Olsen. We all know this. His name is Rainbow and lives in his hippie van smoking weed all day long. Yep. He was going gangbang parties with the abominable snowman. All right. Diller draws. Put it plainly, the window to the Bigfoot and cryptid demons in this lucid dream are more common than sleep paralysis. The window to, probably. Yeah, I mentioned the sleep paralysis. To put it plainly, the window to the Bigfoot and cryptid demons is a lucid dream, or more common than sleep paralysis is the lucid dream. Yeah, but a lot of these people who see Bigfoot were fully awake and able to move around, who were just basically out in the woods and didn't encounter him. But yeah, the lucid dream, they could have been dreaming, or maybe something in the area, maybe like what they said with a portal opened up and they basically saw something from not of this world. Start smoking and joining and nodding his head in agreement. Will you join me on my channel to talk about lucid dreaming? I will love to. Are you doing it tonight? Let's see. Timothy Olsen, Frogman. This is a new one. Timothy Olsen. You should look up the story of the Rake. Now, the Rake and stuff like that. The Rake is basically just a creepypasta, but there might be some evidence they could exist, but more like the Rake and other such creepypasta guys, what's his name? The Slender Man. Those are more or less just stories people have made up with the creepypastas. They're scary stories and stuff, but they could exist too. They might, because people do claim that they've seen something similar to the Rake or saying that they've seen Slender Man, but those are very rare. You and Timothy. Ooh. Yes, tonight at 10 p.m. PS2. I might go. Send me a link, man, send me a link on Twitter and stuff, and I'll come in. All right, let's go back here. We're 56 minutes in. All right, maybe I'll look at this a bit more before I do anything else. I was still in the middle of this. CIA's UFO Bigfoot evidence. Should I look at this, folks? I mean, we've been talking about Bigfoot and stuff like that. Maybe I could come back later and look at this later on again. The CIA's UFO Bigfoot evidence. This is mostly folks who we looked at Bigfoot and whether he's an alien or is in contact with aliens. It looks like CIA says some Bigfoot evidence as well. Huh? Ooh, look at those snow tracks. Could it be, folks? Could it be? Who knows? But either way, I should probably think about ending this stream soon. So let me go off and go to Scumdogs and show you my Indiegogo. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me, as well as please go share this video on social media. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Gab. Bored without any great comic books to read, as if you're falling through the depths of space, then come read Scumdogs. It's one hell of a great comic book. You're just going to love it. And unlike the blue-haired land whales or the purple land whales, you won't get anything like agenda politics. You can hear it on the wind. Scumdogs, just a great comic, just barging down your door, just seeing all the little purple bastards running and screaming in terror. That's Scumdogs. You'll see the amazing sights of people running past gigantic, bizarre pictures, with bizarre happenings, and great stories that'll make you just love the story. You'll get characters like Sloppy here, Hair Metal Doctor, Miss Breasty Melons, and you'll also get Murder Mouth, as well as the ultimate character, Death Mug. Yes, Death Mug, and you'll see him fight his arch enemy, Buick Starcoon, who leads his team into space versus the Wild Rangers in epic battles against the Scumdogs. You'll get characters like Hair Metal Doctor fighting Beach Pounder in an epic battle with Blast Tank along as well, firing off his missiles in an epic showdown that will leave you grasping and wanting more. That's Scumdogs. Go and back it on Indiegogo. You'll get 3 covers. You'll get this cover here that's just awesome, the 90s but muscle cover. You'll get this one where basically a parody of of the characters just working in a burger joint. Okay, you also get 3 covers, as well as the cover with them just chasing down purple land whales. Okay, little purple bastards, but it's going to be awesome. Get back these 3 covers on Indiegogo. Back my comic book. You're just going to love it. That's Scum Dogs. Come and get it on Indiegogo. All right, folks, that was my YouTube. That was my trailer to my Indiegogo. Well, the pre-launch page to it, folks. Please go to Indiegogo and please sign up for it. The first 100 backers get a free poster of Buick Starboard. By the right. Let's see this. Yes, tonight it's about 45 minutes. Okay, Timothy, it's about 45 minutes, huh? Timothy Wilson, sure, I'm interested in doing such things like haunted places and whatnot. Sure, you can send me a link on Twitter. What is your Twitter handle? Read comics, they're bad for you. Let me get my thing up here. Let's see. Yeah, here profile. It's at 777 Mega Chris 1. And stuff like that. Got Driller Draws at 777 Mega Chris 1. Let me do this over here. Get back over here. It's like that. So feel free to leave me a link, Driller, like that. The draws, it should be right there for you to get. All right. Let's see. Make sure that, please, folks, go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you, okay? As well as go and subscribe to me on Twitter as well. When you subscribe to my YouTube channel, the there is misspelled. It's THERE, so it's Read Comics, they're bad for you. Leave some comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. Make sure you're still subscribed. Please go and hit that like button for me, as well as please go and share this video on Twitter and Facebook, as well as please go over and subscribe to Stitch Together Pictures. Stitch Together Pictures is hosted by the maniacal cinephile. You're going to love his reviews of movies and stuff. It's a YouTube channel, by the way, but you're going to love his videos and stuff, as well as go over to Creepy Little Book. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. He releases small videos talking about strange things while talking about high strangeness. He also live streams every night. On weekdays, he live streams at 12:30 a.m. and on weekends at 11 o'clock p.m. He talks about aliens and ghosts, and you learn so much from his live streams. That's Creepy Little Book. Please go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book, as well as go to Twitch and subscribe. Let's see, to Creepy Little Book too. Let's see. Yeah. Remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock for another live stream. Okay. So, did you get my? Let's see. Notifications. Dilla draws. The buckler followed you. That's good. Right. It's good. The buckler following. Right, feel free to leave me a chat, Diller Draws. Send me a link and stuff. You should be able to send me a message and stuff by going to my profile and stuff like that. You should. I'm pretty sure you should be able to. It's at 777 Mega Chris 1 is my Twitter handle, so you should be able to find me then. See if you can't stay here for a bit longer. See if you're going to be able to contact me or not. But you did do that and stuff. You did link up to me while you subscribed to my Twitter thing and stuff like that. Followed me and stuff. So that's pretty good. Let me go back over here. What is your Twitter handle? Maybe I should just put it down here and stuff. At 777 MEGACHRIS 1. Make sure that's got the right thing there. Profile Mega Chris 1. Yeah. It's there. I put my my Twitter handle there, so you should be able to find it. That's for you to use, Dealer Draws. I'll stay on for you guys to get it. So, folks, do you think Bigfoot and aliens are connected? Well, it looks very much like they could very well be. wherever the connection is, does look interesting, I have to say. Very interesting. I mean, what could be the connection? Ultra-terrestrials? That these creatures are all connected, even with ghosts? Could be the fact that when we die, we go to not to heaven or hell, but to another dimension that's with Bigfoot and other cryptid and other UFO and aliens and stuff like that, instead of going anywhere else. Could be. It might explain why ghosts are basically just as mysterious as every other mysterious creature out there. Why they like to pull pranks or do stuff like that. Maybe they're all the same thing. Very, very fun here. Let's see. Making sure. I'm trying to get Diller Draw to basically. Feel free to. Let me go back over here. Let's see. There, I put my Twitter handle for you guys to use and stuff like that. Let's see. Oh, thanks for all the likes, folks. If you haven't hit that like button for me yet, folks, please do so. I'll just make sure that Diller Draws responds before I basically end this live stream. Hopefully he does so. I'll probably end it in a few minutes. I just want to make sure he gets my thing and stuff and does that. So I'm checking here if he's basically sent me any links and stuff. Very interesting. I mean, what could be the connections? Could they be? Did aliens come here and genetically engineer Bigfoot into humans, and that's why we humans don't really fit into the evolutionary theory, because we can't find a missing link for us. We didn't evolve. We were just. I'm sorry, I was buying smokes. All right, so I put my Twitter handle up here. It's at. I sent you a DM just to check. All right, let's see this. Let's see the DM. Manage requests. Go to settings. Diller Draws. Let's see. December 15, 2020. PM. You don't have any message selected, right? Good. Accept. Yeah, I'll drop it here. That's good. I got Dillard. You're right here. Well, do I really have to respond like this? I'm pretty sure Dillard can hear me. I got Dillard. I got your link and stuff. That's pretty good. And stuff like that. So, folks, I guess I'll be ending my live stream now. We had some fun. I'll see you all again tomorrow. I'm Chris Williams. Well, I'm me. Bye. Or maybe I should have had a bit more fun. I'll see you all later, folks.